Welcome, everybody. For those of you who are attending live, which it seems today is a busy day out in the field. And so I'm thinking that we may be a little bit limited in terms of the number of people that join us, Tom. But I do think it doesn't matter because the content that we're going to talk about today is so valuable that, coming back in and watching this, on archive, it's going to be as effective as though people
agree,
live, right? So
Yeah.
Not concerned about this. This is our last one of the series in the sales coaching in leadership for 2021. For those of you who have been following us, we've we've repeated the cycle of each series where we've gone through 5 different topics, and then we repeated the 5 topics. And so this is the last of the 5 topics for sales leadership and coaching. And we're going to talk about using the tools and how you can most effectively execute the Fox selling system. So I'm really, really excited about it. With us, joining us today is middle son, dangerous man I mentioned earlier, Sean Fox. Sean, if you want to say hello to everybody before we kick it off to Big Poppy.
Yeah, no, good morning. Excited to be here. Woke up feeling good today, energized. The college basketball season just started. And honestly, it's crazy to look at the calendar in, the Fox Selling System LMS and think that we're at our last sessions of 2021.
I know, it's crazy.
Which is just nuts. I mean, it feels like yesterday we were putting the calendar together and starting the training in January, February. It's crazy how fast the year goes by. I know that this week and next week are pretty crazy with everyone kind of trying to get ready for Thanksgiving week. And then just kind of a quick aside, Jim and I and the rest of the Fox Selling System team are coordinating and kind of organizing the 2022 calendar now. I know some folks have probably heard about it, but we're going to be keeping all of the 2022 live training topics to 60 minutes. Some of them might be 90 minutes, but instead of repeating the cycle, and this is our first year kind of doing the live training within the Fox Selling System as kind of an added component to supplement the e-learning modules. Next year, we're going to have, I think, probably somewhere around 6 to 7 topics that Tom's going to be doing similar to this fashion in kind of a lecture, interactive training, workshopping mode. Again, those are going to be 60 to 90 minutes. I think Jim and I are going to be adding in a few different kind of tactical how-tos within the platform, some role-playing sessions, even some open office hours where Jim and I will just be jumping on a Zoom where folks can kind of come on and troubleshoot or, ask questions or, realistic examples of how do I use this out in the field, or now that we've taken the skills assessments, what do we do now? Or how do we create those individualized training tracks or know what's best for certain team members on our sales teams. And then also we're kind of spinning around a couple ideas about adding in some panels and roundtables where we potentially get some folks from some of the big chain operators and retailers around the country to kind of join Tom and us on some, 60 or 90 minute webinars, things like, I know we've talked about, state of non-alc, the state of the on-premise, ABP planning season topics, or, fall reset schedules, and maybe what some of those different chain retailers look for in some of those presentations and what stands out. So not only are we going to continue the live training, we're going to add in some tactical training within the platform, as well as kind of bring in some guest speakers to really beef up the live training schedule next year. And again, keep them to 60 to 90 minutes. So that way folks aren't looking at the calendar thinking, hey, I don't have 3 or 4 hours to dedicate today. So we're really excited about the 2022 schedule. That will be released probably in the first or second week of December. It'll also be uploaded into the platform, so that way everyone can kind of start to plan accordingly. We'll join those trainings, and then we may start to kind of play with what time those start. May keep some in the morning, maybe put some around lunchtime, just to kind of try to increase the attendance live. I know that a ton of people and a lot of our clients watch them in archive on the recorded version. But we want to try to make that as easy as possible for folks to be able to join them live. So excited about that upcoming. And again, it's just crazy to think that this is kind of our last few sessions this week for the live training of 2021.
Yeah, that's that everything you just said, Sean, is true. And again, I think that what we're looking for here is value added. We're trying to maybe fill in the gaps. We believe that the sales training modules, the e-learning, are excellent, and by themselves, you're going to get a great foundation. But these interactive tutorials, if you will, are going to provide you some nuance to implementing the process and the techniques, which we really feel are key for the leaders, the sales and coaching leaders within your organization need. You need to have these skills in order to effectively change the culture and really affect change within your organization. So without getting any more into it, I'm going to turn it over to, 2021 winner of the Fox Open.
Never gets old. Never gets old.
2 years in a row.
Never gets old. Yeah.
There's
always room for one more.
Yeah.
Nick Saban would say, there's always room for one more.
Yeah. They're
about the next one.
And anyways, but that's just one of his many accomplishments. Many of you don't know that he also was one of the original Dancing with the Stars competitors and winner. I'm not sure exactly if it was an inaugural season when they were just kind of testing it out, or season 2, but we don't need to get into that. If you just Google or YouTube Tom Fox Dancing with the Stars, you'll probably get just an array of videos that you can watch at your enjoyment. So without further ado, Mr. Dancing with the Stars himself, Tom Fox.
Yeah, a lot of talents. What do they say? I'm a master of none. Touch a lot, but master of none. So anyway, good to be here, everybody. Thank you for your time. Jim and Sean, we talk a lot, and Jim, you mentioned in your opening comments about gaps. It's all about execution. And I know a lot of our clients think about execution from a sales standpoint, executing against distribution goals or promotional goals, and getting the retail on or off premise execution, which we think is really important. And I think that's a lot of what Tom Peters is referring to. But when it relates to the Fox selling system, there are gaps, Jim, because some of our well-intended clients, hardworking, tough to always be focused on, that quadrant 2, the Stephen Covey quadrant 2, which is the important but not urgent quadrant of different time management possible tasks, training being one of them, and even the Fox selling system as a whole, it's completely a quadrant 2, support tool. We know that our clients have had challenges getting the execution that all of us would want, and I think that's what you and Sean, Jim, you and Sean think a lot about. How can we help our clients execute at a higher level? Because the enhancement to your productivity and the culture is going to be a byproduct of better, or what you could say, excellence in execution. And it's a big opportunity.
Yeah, Tom, I couldn't agree more. I mean, we make references a lot to athletics and sports because it's really, for many of the people who watch or listen, it's something that they can really relate to easily. Even if they are not athletic, they probably are sports fans, and they see. People don't start on a team unless they've earned the right to be able to do that. And earning the right means they put in the practice, they've gotten the techniques down, they've become coachable. All of those things come together, and yet still they strive for that excellence every single time because they know that they can't mail it in. And this is no different. I mean, I don't know why any organization wouldn't treat the training of their sales team the same way they would treat a team if they were coaching them in a sport against competition. I mean, unless they're 5-year-olds where everybody gets a trophy, there's got to be some method for measuring whether or not somebody has the skills to be able to go out and execute to your expectations. And we can provide those. It's really up to the organization whether or not.
And that's the beauty of today. I mean, we're dealing today with sales leaders. So this is the leadership component. Tomorrow we've got key account. Friday we've got, the sales team. But I think you're 100% right. It comes down to, just from a vision standpoint, saying, I want a professional selling organization. I want that. I don't want to tolerate relationship selling anymore. I don't want to tolerate it. And I think most of our clients would probably say, yeah, that's where I'm at. And yet, even if you provide support like a Fox selling system, it requires execution. And today is really all about that execution, about trying to get people to understand just how simple the application of a lot of the support that our tool provides and the impact it can have on productivity and the impact it can have on the development of the team and the culture of your team. So this objective is just that. It's all about executing at a higher level. I know Jim and you and Sean talk a lot about, trying to even, almost like how dare we give people a report card, but maybe some kind of an indication to the leadership. How are you doing in terms of execution, and are you getting the return on that investment? The worst thing that any of us would ever want would be someone to support their team with FSS and then not use it. It would be, we go to great lengths to not let that happen.
Yeah.
And so, that bottom line, we had a client, Sean and I were on a phone call yesterday, Jim, with one of our clients, and this person talked about, how Fox Selling System has made, significant impact to their culture. But he made it clear. He goes, we're going to be doing this. He goes, our culture is not going to be where it needs to be for at least 2 more years. If we do everything we're supposed to do, it's going to take 2 more years. And I think that speaks to the progress and not perfection. There's no such thing as this utopia of everyone, doing everything every call. It's just never going to happen. But, it all goes back to that vision, and it all goes back to, just the organization saying, you know what, we're going to hold our people accountable.
Well, we don't even, that's not even one of our objectives, is to suggest everybody does everything at every call. That's not right. Realistic, and nor is that what, our vision is in terms of how to best apply the techniques and get value.
And I love that. I think everyone who listens in, I want them to think about progress. As you're supporting your team, you're doing it to provide, again, this infrastructure that can lead to developmental progress. They're better than they were yesterday, or they were better than they were last year. And so that's progress. Mm-hmm. Even clients that we would say might get a C grade, like not, there's nothing wrong with C's. I was Mr. C in high school and college. So there's nothing wrong with a C student, other than the idea that, we're better. A C student is better this year than they were last year. So there was development. It was progress. Yeah. Not everyone's going to be an A student. A's are great, right? But it's just not. It's all about progress, and I want people to really think about that, because that's a huge kind of awareness to have, to say we have provided this support, we've made progress, and we're moving in the right direction. And think about, Jim and Sean, progress over your competition. Mm-hmm. Your competition likely hasn't had this kind of progress, and if you take away that support, that progress will halt, and then any advantage you were building becomes, not the advantage that you intended on. And I just think that's an important point. And I don't know if either one of you have any thoughts on that, but that's critical. We want all of our clients to take a long-term approach on this. Changing culture is not going to happen overnight.
No, you talk about C's versus A's, and I would argue that C students, or salespeople, they're not necessarily C's because of an lack of ability, as right. much as it is, the lack of putting the work in and putting in, exerting effort. Now, there may be A students or A salespeople where a lot of this stuff comes a little bit easier to. They grasp it, they get it, they have some, traits and personality that might lend itself well to that. But a lot of times it comes down to energy, yep. And the willingness. And, if you can have the energy and the willingness and the commitment, then you can attain greatness. I mean, you really, truly can.
Which is a huge part of leadership, that whole idea of influencing attitudes and behaviors, which we will talk about. But anyway, again, as Sean mentioned, this is our last one. And I went ahead and inserted that little text box at the bottom there to not have anyone be fooled. This is not going to be a 3 or 4 hour program. We're going to, based on the feedback we got, as Sean mentioned, this is really about application and execution. And again, I think one of the things that's important would be this idea of influencing people to execute against the system. I mean, that's part of it is, and you just said it, Jim, it's that interest and energy. Interest is all attitudinal influence, and and the energy is around the behaviors to actually adopt a lot of the techniques and, using the support. So again, if I would challenge any leader that's listening in here, if your team has not executed to the level that you wanted, that means that whatever influence you were trying to have, there's a gap. And we want to help close those gaps. And again, I think it's a situation, Jim, where, I'll get into this in a second. I have a kind of a funny poll that we're going to run, and we won't necessarily run the poll, but I think it'll be a great opportunity to have an important conversation around, our most sales teams, Jim, when you ran a sales team, and Sean, you've ran sales teams, how often did your team come up to you and go, where's the training? I mean, I want to be developed. Where's the training? I want, develop me, help me practice. I imagine not many salespeople did that.
Sean?
No, no, I think out of the gate, there's kind of a natural affinity to like, hey, what am I supposed to be doing? How do I do it? Can I listen to how you do it? Or maybe shadow some other people. But like once they kind of somewhat get their feet underneath them, in my experience, it's almost like they don't want to be bothered, where they're not necessarily asking because they kind of get into a groove, or you could also call it a rut to a certain extent, where they kind of figure out a way that they do things and don't really want to be bothered with other ways, even if it might improve how they do their job and ultimately more money in their pocket. If you're in sales, I mean, the better you are, the more likely commissions or variable comp or bonuses you're going to make. So it's always interesting to get better. And again, I use this analogy a lot, but we've been doing a lot of in-market certifications or really in-market trainings the last 2 months. So we've been all over the country watching how, sales reps and sales managers are coaching their sales reps and how sales managers are actually selling. And I think there's kind of a natural tendency to be like, hey, why are these guys coming? Are they coming to see how good I am at my job or what I'm not doing right? There's a natural propensity to get nervous. And the analogy that I use is, hey, if someone is at all a sports fan, LeBron James, Tiger Woods, Serena Williams, all those athletes, they still practice for 8 to 10 hours a day.
Yeah.
And they are the best in the world, like literally the best in the world.
That's really,
and yet they still practice every single day for the last 30 years. So it's just kind of creating that drive to always want to get better because you can always improve.
Tom, Sean, you're 100% right on that. They don't just go out. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how skilled they are. You don't stay the same. I mean, I play drums, and if I'm not playing regularly,
Exactly.
then the skills lose, the timing, the speed, whatever, accuracy, a number of things change. But the influence and the opportunity that people have to instill or provide influence in an organization is probably one of the least valued skills that organizations take advantage of, because there are a lot of people within an organization who have the ability to influence, and they are influencing whether they even are aware of it or not. I can remember multiple times, I mean, throughout my career, my own style was to seek out where the opportunities lied. I would seek out the leaders within an organization and ask them, what is it that you're trying to get done? How can I be a part of that? And so throughout my career, I've had people do the same thing. And when you see somebody like that, I'm sure you meet that criteria. That's the person who I know down the road is going to be a success, because if they're doing that early on in their job, then most likely that's something that they're going to continue to do. And that's really, truly how they can improve. So most people don't do it. So it's up to the influencers to be able to help those others and bring them up to the level of those people who may seek it out on their own.
Yeah, no, I think it's great. And you think about, let's just take a fictitious client. They support their team with FSS, and they assign a bunch of tasks. They got to do some of the e-learning. They got to attend some of the live. We do some of the scorecarding. We provide some of the support via sell sheets, assessments, whatever it is. If there is not meaningful dialogue, so that little blue arrow there, how do you influence someone's attitude? It is simple. You have to involve them. So as I transition to the next slide, like, how does someone really buy in to the idea that we want to execute the Fox selling system at a really high level? It would require, when we expose them, and again, I'm thinking most of our clients, the original exposure is probably our launch meeting.
Mhm.
And I think we do a really good job when we are launching it to explain how this ties back to the company's vision and mission, and how this is going to, and all the things that you said, Sean, around, hey, no one could argue that, but I don't think people think about this, but no one could argue, if I'm better at selling, I'm probably going to make a lot more money. I don't know how many people actually think about that. So we got to get people to think about it, because everything Sean said, no one would disagree with, but no one's probably thinking about that.
Sure.
So when we expose them, the understanding can't be how to use Fox selling system or what you need to do to use Fox selling system. We've got to get into that why question. Why are we supporting you with this? And that, what I would say, that courtesy of having that communication is going to be the right exposure, that when someone starts thinking about Fox selling system, they can start to think about how this could actually help them. I'm fearful that most people, upon the original exposure, look at the Fox selling system as something else I have to do versus support of how it can make me better. Am I wrong about that?
Absolutely not. I've probably mentioned on other, training sessions we've had, this is one of my very favorite slides that you've created over the years. I mean, I remember it when you first came in to our operation and we're giving the sales and leadership coaching training, because to me, this is a big aha.
Yeah, I agree.
It's the kind of thing that anybody could relate to it. Oh yeah, how do you know it? I would argue, and I think I told you this, Tom, I had a conversation with my stepson about what is the common denominator in all knowledge in the world. And it's exposure. If you don't have exposure to anything, how are you going to gain any understanding or awareness of it? So the more frequent, that last, how it accelerates with frequent exposures.
Yeah.
Into
frequent conversations. Go ahead, Shawnee.
No, I was just going to say, I think the other thing to kind of keep in mind, and I've made this mistake in real life, is that people are motivated in different ways.
Mm-hmm.
Naturally putting yourself in someone else's shoes, thinking, because I'm very financially motivated, every role, and that's why I wanted to get involved in sales, because there's no, in theory, ceiling. Hey, if I do this, then I can make that. If I do this more, then I can make that much more. That always intrigued me, which is why I wanted to get involved in sales. But I had, at one point, 20 kind of cold callers reporting to me, and probably 15 of them had that same motivation. But other people wanted to work in a good company and be around other creative people and open up avenues to join other departments and get into marketing or operations or consulting. And then other people were, hey, I don't really care about how much money I make. I just want a good title. I can be doing the same job, but as long as I have a VP title, it looks cool on LinkedIn and I can float that on business cards into my family. So that motivation is also important to kind of keep in mind of what drives people. And again, that's sometimes where kind of those skills assessments come in. I can't remember how many times I had one-on-ones with people where I scheduled them on a weekly basis just to check in. Hey, any concerns? What do you need from me? How can I help? And then I would cancel them just because I was like, hey, our numbers are low. We got to, get on the phone. Or in other industries, would be like, hey, we don't have time to join this Fox selling system training or whatever else it is, because we got to get out in the field and visit an extra 2 accounts in that time and try to increase sales leading up to the holidays. So, just
if you could do it over again, would you do it that way?
No.
I think that's when the sales are down, is when you need to have more one-on-ones, probably.
Yeah, it was such a top-down, hey, Sean, what are the numbers? And then it would trickle down where I would tell them, hey, we need to make an extra 12 calls that day. So in order to make that 12 calls, we can either skip lunch or we can skip this one-on-one. And in this one-on-one, they're probably not going to ask for training. I'm probably not going to, ask them to role play, because role plays are typically always awkward since they're just easy to skip, but they're invaluable. So just kind of keeping some of that stuff in mind and looking back on my experience in managing people.
That's cool.
It's easy just to kind of not disrupt the status quo.
So when we talk about execution, Jim and Sean, I don't know if you want to just tag team on this, but I look at this and I'm saying, this looks like a lot to execute. I mean, 12 steps, to this playbook. Walk me off the ledge here, because this seems like a lot.
I'll take a shot at it. I'll just talk about the skills assessment for a second. If you look at it, it might seem like a lot, but if you break it down into the 3 sections, it's not. We're talking about 4 different.
I agree.
steps.
I was saying that just to give you a,
Right,
like
right.
a little
And
T-bone
no,
here.
I understand. Somebody might look at this and think, oh my God,
Yeah.
this is a lot. But there's a value and there's a purpose for each one of these sections within the playbook. And that skills assessment, to me, is the most critical of all of them. This is where you can define what the expectations are. You can clarify what the roles within your organization, within the selling team, and what you're going to use as a measurement as to how effective the individual and you as their coach and or leader feel where they are within that skill. Because it's only if you know where they are you're going to be able to help them get to where you would like them to be. If you have no, I mean, it might seem perfectly obvious, but I would say this: how do you know what somebody's needs are in terms of improving without some form of evaluation?
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
How would you know?
It'd be very subjective, and frankly, you probably wouldn't know.
Not only that, but many organizations, the training is so erratic, if they have it, as to not really measure. They might say, okay, they've exposed the people to, here's your job description, here's what we expect of you. Well, that's great. But I mean, have you really truly defined it against specifically what each one of these skills you're talking about? That's what the skill assessment can provide. And that's why that leads into this training, skill, and capability building, because once you have identified where those needs are, then you can start shaping a plan to help develop that individual. And Sean, I don't know what, if anything else you have to add on that, and if you want to take a crack at the training and or coaching and evaluation, but that, to me, the skills assessment is absolutely critical.
Yeah, no, just reiterating, it really starts with, hey, where do I stand? So we've identified 12 key skills in the system. So some of those I might be, over the expectation for my job and responsibilities. Others I might be under. So let's understand where I'm good, maybe where I need to improve, then train and get better in those areas that I need to improve.
Which is step 2, which is like the second. Yep.
And then the coaching and evaluation piece is either out in the market together, working with, that's the coaching and evaluation piece. So where do I stand? Train skills to get better, e-learning modules, live trainings, working with together, and then coaching and evaluating is where those scorecards come in. So it just becomes a never-ending cycle to eventually get you to the next level for career progression, job responsibilities. It's really just those 3 steps in the middle.
No, I think that's really, it's well put. I think that demystifies or maybe takes away some of the angst around 12 steps. It's really, to your point, Jim, how good is the team? 2, what training do we have to provide? What skills have to be built in terms of building their capability? And then 3, how are we going to measure it? Now we're in the field. Let's see it. Are they applying it? Are they using it? How good are they? And then that circle just keeps going. It never ends. And so it's not really 12 steps. It's really more 3. But again, the infrastructure that FSS provides makes this, pretty easy to execute. It's not, a lot of it used to be very manual. Now it's not.
Yeah. And it's really a pretty basic roadmap.
And then again, you look at the five elements of support providing. So again, once you identify where some of the gaps are, whether they have to take some of the e-learning courses or some of the live virtual stuff, they can target those, right? Now in the market, are they getting better? We can measure things that historically we can never measure before or weren't measured before. And again, even, just the whole back to the skills assessment. And again, it just keeps going. So, and the blended approach allows for a much more comprehensive, much more frequent way to develop people than what we would consider event-led training once a year or every 18 months that no one would doubt is valuable, but it's just not going to change culture. So kind of love this. And so we talk a lot about execution, and really it does come down to, Jim and Sean, how open have our clients been to like taking our suggestions on some of these, like actually establishing some KPIs? Because I imagine this is where the rubber hits the road. if we don't establish the KPIs, then there probably is gaps in execution.
Yeah, I think in terms of willingness, they have a willingness, but to actually put it into practice, I'd go back to what Sean said a minute ago, where he was doing one-on-ones, but then all of a sudden he would cancel a one-on-one because something more important came up or sales were down and he had to do something. So organizations, to me, establish KPIs for executing. It's the whole adage of inspect what you expect. And
right.
I hate cliches, but or coach speak, so to speak, but it really applies. I mean, if you don't inspect what your expectations are, then how are you going to ever know whether or not you're making any type of progress? So to me, I think a lot of our clients very easily embrace the learning part of it, the coursework. And then when it comes down to actually applying that, going out and coaching and observing that behavior, that's where sometimes I think there's a little bit of a disconnect. So best practice, those folks who actually create objectives in terms of minimums per month for scorecards, for selling sheet, for the live training within the organizations, those are the ones where it's become cultural.
Yeah, I know. I used to always say, Jim, that, if you're a distributor or a supplier and you're the sales leader of your territory, whether you're the leader of the entire department or you're just a regional leader, whatever, you should be with your team, minimum 10 calls per month. And that would be great. But Jim, it could be as little as 5. 5 is still 60 observations, 60 opportunities to score against those critical behaviors. And again, think of all of those 60 conversations, how they could be extremely developmental, because we're observing, we're doing the goals process of asking questions pre-call, the rise process of post-call questions. Just think how those conversations, 60 of them throughout a year, can just be wonderful exposure. So it doesn't have to be that many. Five a month seems very doable. Sell sheets. So if I'm a sales rep, is 8 a month? Would that, I mean, that's 2 a week. Is that, and then again, I would imagine, Jim, and Sean, after 8, do you think they're going to notice a difference in how productive they are in those accounts that they did have some productivity enhancer with the sell sheet versus when they didn't? Seems pretty obvious that that's going to be a stimulus to do more.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, to me, that standard that you just laid out there, 2 a week, I mean, to me,
and then the online or the live training again can be targeted,
right,
scheduled as needed. And again, I would challenge anyone that would say, that every and even next year, thinking about how we're going to be adapting the live training, is there going to be any of those exposures relative to live training that not one of our clients could be like, they really shouldn't attend?
Yeah, right. No,
that doesn't exist. That does not exist. Does not exist. All right. So I know we're not going to necessarily launch the poll, but again, I think this provides a nice conversation. When you think about providing the support, are we providing the support because our employees are knocking down our door, begging for this support, or do they look at it as another to-do, another, like, now, what do you want me to do now? My fear is that this is false, that we're not doing this because our sales teams are craving it. We're doing it because we know that there's gaps in how they're currently selling or how they're currently coaching, and we want to support them and up their game, which is why we're doing this. And again, for all the leaders that listen in, it all goes back to vision. Like, what do we want our customers to say about us? If you ask that question, if everyone who ever watches this particular webinar answers this question, how do you want your customer to describe the service that you provide? I would imagine, Jim and Sean, most are going to say, oh, I would hope they describe it as, we're a partner. We're very value added. They help me make more money. They help me grow my business. You know, those are very high level aspirational, you know, remarks that we would, and I would argue very strategic remarks that we would want versus, oh, they're a nice guy or nice gal, and you know, I like them, but you know, they can be a little annoying. You know, I mean, how many retailers would really say, boy, that salesperson really helped me, which is really that's going to go back to vision. So because we have an aspirational vision of what we're trying to get accomplished, we know that we have to provide the training. You know, whenever we hear anyone on our demos ever say, you know, we're just not sure we're going to provide it, our teams just haven't been clamoring for it. No kidding. You know, no kidding. It's just not going to happen.
You know, the funny thing about that is that we used to do surveys all the time, employee surveys, and they covered a you know, wide range of topics, and they were total companies survey satisfaction. But one of the things at the top, near the top, often was that training was something that, but a lot of times that might have to do with systems within the organization. Maybe they've implemented a new warehouse management system, or how to use their mobility, or whatever it might be. So I think that the funny thing is, anytime somebody has a meeting nowadays, it's what's the objective, right? What's the objective? What's the takeaway we want you to have from this? And that's great. I think there should be that. The follow-up question I would have then is, all right, well, how are you going to be able to measure whether or not what it was that you exposed your team to is in fact working, or it's sunk in?
Yeah. No, you're right. All right, so Jim and Sean, I'm not sure who wants to take the screen, but we're going to get into, in about a minute, we're going to get into maybe some quick demonstrations and discussion around applying this first pillar, this first element that needs to be executed. You know, we talk about the 5 pillars that we have within the Fox selling system, you know, the e-learning, the live training, sell sheets, assessment, scorecards. They're all like our children. And, you know, Sean might think he's my number one child. He might think that, but they're all, I love them all. I love them all equally. But I will tell you, I do have one favorite pillar, and that is the scorecard. I see such a line of sight to changing culture, changing behavior, improving selling skills based on this intentional observation. And so again, you know, we would want our folks to think about this, because Jim, we know that some of our clients have used scorecards, and it becomes a critical element for the way they've executed the system. Some have not yet had the epiphany of what this could mean. And so my hope is that everyone would say, not only am I using it to observe my team's selling behaviors, but it's making a huge difference. Then I would love if everyone could vote true. But Jim, I don't think everyone would vote. I think some people would go, just haven't gotten around to it yet. You know, or I'm kind of doing it, but I'm kind of not doing it.
Well, you know, you've been doing this for 20 years, live training and going in and seeing one. And I know, Tom, that you've mentioned in the past that this whole idea of the learning curve being a real thing is something that has recently been more, you know, new in terms of your awareness of the effectiveness of training and how some of the different factors come in to play in somebody's ability to retain the information they've been exposed to, which is why we have the Fox selling system, so that they can have multiple exposures to it. And I really believe that with the scorecard spot, or this tool, a lot of our clients, if they're new, they really are still embracing and wrapping their head around what the content is. And so maybe there's a lack of confidence in their ability to go out and actually witness it and know it when they see it. So that's why it's critical for the people on this call, or anybody watching it, is that we're here to help you be able to identify and see it and recognize it when you do see it. That is really a key to the success of a scorecard, because how can you go out and evaluate somebody's capability if you don't really know it yourself? So it's it's really incumbent upon the coaches and the leaders within the organization to embrace this content, do everything they can to master it, because then they can become more effective at observing it.
Yeah.
Sean, do you want to take the screen and go through it, and we can both or all three of us can comment on it? I mean,
Well,
is
I
that what
love,
your
Sean,
intention
you
was?
and I had a chance, as you mentioned earlier, we had a chance to actually see one of our clients in a pretty comprehensive effort. I think 15 of their regional managers we each shadowed. I had a chance to see everyone, actually apply it, and it was fascinating to see. And also, I will say again, my opinion, what we've created is easily executable. It is not unbelievably burdensome to populate these yes or no or NA questions, but what's more important is just the result of the conversation. Because when it's done right, as we know, it's that self-assessment, and it's just a great way to focus on, and if it's one day a month, 5 accounts, where we can actually have meaningful dialogue around what's working with their selling approach and where they can improve, and having the salesperson drive that because the regional manager or the sales leader is asking the goals and rise questions. And that's really that's all it is, right? Really, other than goals and rise, there is some executional stuff, Sean, obviously, that we track too. But anyway, I'll let you take over, Sean, because you saw this in mass in the last month.
No, yeah, we did. And just to reiterate, I mean, Tom and I, for the last 2 months, have been traveling around the country, kind of doing in-market trainings with regional sales managers and their sales reps, or their ASMs, if you will. And I think, to me, it's such a 21st century type tool, if you will. I know that legacy standards for work with, a lot of times we found, and Tom's done this with dozens of companies, and I know, Jim, when you were at the distributor level for 30 years, you were doing in-market trainings and really certifications annually, if not like quarterly, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, I was doing the market observations in RideWith, throughout the whole year,
right,
within all operations.
And I think what your company did very well was it wasn't just a checking of the box, because I think a lot of the work with and some of the people that we worked with for the last couple months, it was pretty clear that, they didn't want to necessarily get their teams in trouble. So some of the scorecards that I saw come back to me were like literally every single question for 5 account visits in a given day, every single one was a yes.
Right.
So I think there's even a cultural change that we need to have happen of, hey, this is not to get anyone in trouble. We're using this to try to understand what skills out in the marketplace is this individual or that individual on my team where they should be, maybe not where they should be, maybe above where they should be for specific skills. And I think the other part is, in a lot of the work with I've seen, even before working with this company for the last 2 months, and this company, I mean, they're very good. They are very good. They want to get better. And I think we applaud them because they're already almost at the top of their game, but they want to get better. But I think a lot of work
Which is usually the theme. That's usually the theme we see.
Right. It's a checking of the box, or it happens to be something where, they're just not necessarily aware on how to scorecard, or they're not even keeping notes, and they're just kind of going through the day, maybe keeping some observations at the top of their head, but in a month or in, certainly a year, they're going to completely forget what happened or what that account sprite need was, or maybe how that specific rep does from asking tactical questions or strategic business questions to uncover needs, to handle objections, to closing sales. Or they maybe jot some stuff down on a loose leaf sheet of paper in a notebook that's, got 150 pages like this. And throughout the course of the year, it's going to be impossible to understand, wait, what pages were what reps notes on, what month was that? So it's hard to aggregate. So I think that is a bigger picture, valuable, feature within our platform. Because as you can see, all these scorecards are kind of aggregated over time. You can also visualize a lot of them. There's scores. I know some work with it'll be like, hey, look at all these yes, no's, but at the end of the day, like, what do we really make of this? Or what are the kind of red flags, or what are the themes throughout this, outside of having to go line by line and checklist by checklist? Hey, what happened here? So using kind of this technology to help, make our work with more effective, we think is a game changer, just moving into the 21st century. So in this instance, this is an example where I might be out in the marketplace using this scorecarding tool. And again, this is also in an app form for all Fox Selling System clients. We can pull the users down. So if you've got 2 people reporting to you or 10 people reporting to you, in this instance, I'm going to be doing a work with for Bob Powers at Bob's Discount Liquor. I'll pull in today's date, 10th of November. And then we really start to get into these tactical behaviors that we've identified through Jim's 30 years of doing work with and certifications in market, and Tom's 20 years, and then last 20 years, doing consulting and sales training. So we can start to move down through this yes, no, or NA checklist of, is the person following the sales process? Are they doing proper prep and recon? Are they, properly merchandising the account and making sure that all of our pricing execution and that the shelves look right with, shelf price tags and banners and table tents or shelf talkers, or, whatever it is, to just clean up the account and make sure that our products are properly merchandised and look like they're ready to move, to really help these, retailers move product, create the profits they're looking for, drive additional traffic, create impulse buys. So we can go through for these yes, no, or NAs and add in comments of, developed order.
And as Sean's doing that, Jim, one of the things that I would say of all the accounts that I visited in the last month, half of them were on premise. These first 4 questions were probably all in A.
Yeah, right. Well,
the fourth one was oftentimes yes, because they wanted to, if there was anything that they did, hey, I don't see anything in stock here, or it's not whatever. But a lot of them are NA, and that's no big deal. No big deal.
Yeah, right. Well, not only that, but I would make the argument that it's no big deal wherever they are. It's where is that individual in the process now? Where are they right now? And any one of these given areas. And if I were going to coach or advise or recommend to anybody starting this, and you're now just going out to do your first scorecards, if you're not focusing on whether or not the person was able to uncover and confirm the retailer's needs, you are not putting your efforts in the right place. It is the absolute most important. You can do all the preparation in the world. You can know where your products align with the needs of the retailer, et cetera, et cetera. But if you can't uncover and confirm the retailer's need, then the rest of it becomes so difficult. It's all intertwined. It's the lifeblood, you say, Tom, or the holy grail.
Yeah.
So for early adopters of the process using the scorecard, I can't emphasize enough how important it is to make sure your reps understand how to and can execute uncovering and confirming the retailer's needs, or reconfirming it, the ongoing confirmation of.
Yeah, I don't think we're ever going to get to the reconfirming on an ongoing basis without the use of a scorecard. I just don't know how that would ever become habit without the coaching. I just don't think it would. I just don't think. I mean, it'd be rare if it did. There are some salespeople who just maybe see this and just take it and run with it. Most are going to need a lot of ongoing coaching for it to really embed.
And both you and Sean just went through how many different, 15 different live in-market training with the client. And would you say that the most difficult step the sales reps had was uncovering the need?
There's no question.
Absolutely.
No question.
And again, this company is very good.
Yeah.
I think they're one of the largest wine companies in the world. Like, they're super good at what they do. The team knows their product portfolio. They know the background on all the different wines and vineyards and blends. But there's an opportunity for them to even get better and stand out from the other 95% of the industry by being laser focused on needs. And the analogy that I use, and again, I'm big on analogies, it's probably the third one I've mentioned, is once we uncover that need, in theory, it gives us a hunting license.
Yeah.
And when I say a hunting license, it's, hey, now that I know what you're focused on, because someone might come in with a, hey, this is going to help you increase sales. Probably everyone's going to be likely to be like, hey, sales is great, but what I'm worried about right now is no one's coming in the door, or a new store just popped open down the street, or someone's, opened this holiday pop-up. So everyone that's going to be coming to this block is going to be going there. I need to get people in the door. So if you're not understanding exactly what they're trying to get accomplished, not even just for the year, but for specific seasonality. You know, if you're not prescribing specific solutions to what they're looking to get accomplished, you're not going to stand out, or you're not going to be thought of after you walk out the door as someone that's like, hey, that person is trying to help me with my business. So I think using that Sprite lead, once we uncover it, hey, you're trying to get traffic. Now I can tailor my pitch to traffic, mention traffic a couple times during that pitch. If we get an objection, go back to that traffic need. It just gives us that license, because we already know what they're looking for, to continue to try to hammer that home. So not only was uncovering needs, and again, this is for all, even the distributors we've worked with the last couple of years, like that's a big opportunity. But in my opinion, Tom, the hardest step for anyone to get a yes to is this step here.
Yep.
So not only do you mention it, but then maybe confirming it. So if I'm understanding you correctly, or if I'm hearing you right, you're looking to do this. And then sometimes people will, like, because we're there, they're like, okay, I need to uncover the need. I need to get the Sprite. But then once they do, it's kind of like, all right, checkbox. Now I just go back to, all right, let's sample these 5 wines. I know the buyer's not here today, but you know, I'll check back in with you in 2 weeks. So even that kind of additional tactic of, once I uncover that need, using it, i.e. that hunting license, to go back to a couple times. Because if we uncover the need just to check the box and then don't use it again, or don't mention it again.
Yeah, why?
This is, in my opinion, the hardest step, where I had know the most when I was kind of scorecarding ancillary.
Yeah, I would agree. There were a lot of no's on here, and it's just the idea of pounding the nail. You know, you've uncovered the need. Now you need to know if you're going to be accused of helping the customer, you've got to execute that step that Sean just outlined. And I would say that between uncovering and confirming the need and then pounding the nail, that is selling. And yet it's what most of our clients, you know, as well intended and hardworking as they are, that's what they're not doing.
Right. And I think just, you know, at the end of the day, once we complete, this is for one specific account call. So we're not doing a scorecard for the entire day. It's for all 6 accounts we visit that day. But again, we don't want to overwhelm anyone. So if it's like, you know, hey, and again, this is where it goes back to that skills assessment. Maybe you've done work with your team, or you've done that skills assessment to understand, hey, that prepare and recon step and surveying, like, this is not an observer behavior I'm going to be observing today. So I'm just going to put NAs for all those accounts we work on that day. But what I want to work on is uncovering needs and then handling objections. So like those specific 5 to 7 drop downs for yes, no, or NA are the only ones we're going to be observing today. And you know what? If we get 40s across the board today, that's okay. In 6 to 12 months from now, we want to see that 40 go to a 60 or go to an 80 or go to a 90 to show we're progressing. And I think, again, the value in these scorecards is that we can assign an actual number to them. So over time, if you look back at, you know, look at all these scorecards that I have. So a given manager, for all their team members here in this left column, the account we visited, the date, it just gives us an easy way to kind of keep track of all the work we're doing, and then aggregate it ultimately with scores. And then in the reporting dashboards, we can filter for last year versus this year, or January and February versus October and November, to really understand, are we seeing progress in the specific skills and behaviors that we've identified through that skills assessment as areas of opportunity for this person to improve.
Jim, would you not agree, Jim, for 100 years, if you go back to pre-prohibition and think the last 100 years, how many salespeople who did overall were largely pretty successful, but yet their managers never scored. They could never score how good of a listener someone was. They could never really score how were their selling stories taking benefits and aligning them with needs. These were things that just were not scored.
No, they were not.
We can now, and so how is anyone going to get, like, what's that, Tom Peters? What you measure is what you're going to be good at, or something. I'm sure I screwed it up, but this allows you to do it. And the execution of this is going to be beyond impactful. I mean, beyond. The impact's going to be significant on their development.
We didn't have this tool when I was, working as a distributor, responsible for 4 different operations, close to 100 sales reps and supervisors on top of that. I would argue that what took maybe 2 years to really get the ball rolling, starting to get it some entrenchment, could have taken half that time having a tool like this because of the laser focus this provides the coach
Yeah.
at where to look and to see and observe. Because even to Sean's point earlier, if you're out and you're doing NA on everything except uncovering or reconfirming the need and handling objections, it doesn't mean your ears are turned off or your eyes are shut while you're observing the whole entire call. So it still provides opportunity to provide feedback to the individual on another area. It's just that if you're going out just to observe a specific step or two within the process, this tool allows you to be able to do that, and it allows you to capture other information should you choose to.
Yeah.
And then
Shawnee,
this is
anything
where-
else before we get into cell sheets?
No, I was just going to say, this is where it's all visualized. As you can see, we can filter by team, by company, even if we wanted to drill into specific accounts, by user. So in this instance, I've got 9 scorecards created for specifically Bob Powers, who reports to me between February 1st and today. And then we can look at the different aspects. So that kind of the initial sales call, the pitch, and then closing the sale, and then ultimately what score has been had. So this person's kind of in that, passing or C range, kind of in this orange area. But I think we're also able to notate, okay, between, last week and this week, what happened specifically, so we can start to drill into and try to understand, why are we seeing a downtick in performance or in some of these behaviors? Let's try to course correct. So not only can you have all these different scorecards to look account by account, day by day, but then from a broad reporting standpoint and tracking and measuring, we can look at the system as a whole. So we can filter these in theory for last year versus this year, Q1 versus Q2, to really start to track, is this person progressing, and am I helping coach them in the right fashion? So yeah, that's pretty much it, Tom.
That's good. No, I love it. And I do think it's really, having had a chance to see it, Jim, it's executable. We talk about execution, it's executable.
Mm-hmm.
When you did it at the distributor you worked at, it was all manual, right?
All manual. We were just taking, essentially
Still very valuable, though. That coaching was invaluable.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's the ease with which we would be able to administer the scorecards, and then the tracking, and then the recap, especially for our operations that have multiple locations, et cetera, large, but even down to the ones that just have small 4, 5, 6 team sales teams. This is I would even make the argument it's even more valuable, because you're getting the same type of tool and training that some of our largest national companies are using. If you're a 4 or 5 person, you have access to the same level and quality of training tools.
Cool. Yeah, no, good stuff. Did you want to do cell sheets, Jimmy?
Well, I believe that Sean may have been looking for a sell sheet. I'm not 100%, but I can start. I certainly can. If you go to the next slide, Tom, or we're not doing this poll, or are we?
No, we're not. No, I was just going to go right to cell sheets.
Okay, guys.
Yeah, sorry, Jim, if you want to take it, I'm pillaging my neighbor's internet right now. My Comcast internet's down again.
Okay, hang on a second. So
I'm
let me
switching to AT&T come Q1. I'm tired of Comcast.
Yeah, I don't blame you. Let me pull up the system here. But while I'm
he doesn't like the culture of his current internet provider.
No, he does not.
No, I think if I switch to YouTube TV, I'll be able to save $20 a month on my car insurance.
I'm a pretty happy subscriber myself.
Are you?
The YouTube TV?
I have YouTube TV in our new townhouse in Auburn Hills. We're using YouTube TV, and I might start using it down south too.
Wow. Okay. So
is that the same subscription, or do you have to get a different one?
No, it's the same.
Yeah, that's the game changer. Instead of having 2 bills, pay one. And what YouTube's like $60-$80 a month.
65, I think. Yeah, it's pretty cheap.
Yeah,
okay. I could talk about YouTube TV all day, but we have Cell Sheet.
Cell sheets must intrude.
Okay, Cell Sheets must intrude. Can you see my screen?
Yes. Yes.
Right. So a couple things I want to start out with regards to Cell Sheets is, for the coaches and leaders out here, the Cell Sheet has invaluable benefit in the marketplace for usage. I would argue that I'm arguing a lot of stuff today, Tom. I don't know. I would say that what's missed is the value that the Cell Sheet can have during role play opportunities. because, and I would advise anybody that is going to conduct role plays that they're implementing the sell sheet in order to do so, because it's the blueprint for the sale. And going back earlier, when you're talking about, making observations about the person making the sales pitch and the sales pitch in the market and uncovering the need, et cetera, they're going to have a lot more confidence in doing it if they've had a chance to rehearse it first. And to me, it's one of those things where it has, not only is it a benefit in the market, but people will start to understand the selling process. So you have, what you see here, for those of you, anybody who's on this call or is watching it later, has already been exposed to that this is a tool and a feature within the system. And we really implemented this because we thought that it would provide an opportunity for people to easily put together a selling story around facts and sales data that can make a more compelling story for the retailer to want to embrace. So what you're seeing,
answering the really easy yet important question of, if I say yes, how much revenue am I going to generate? How much profit am I going to earn? Not unreasonable questions that I think our retail industry doesn't ask, because they're just not used to getting it. They wouldn't expect an answer of any really intelligence. We upgrade the quality of the content significantly. Isn't that the bottom line, Jim?
Yeah, that's the bottom line. And it also is what, to me, it's one of these things that it would be interesting to know how many sheets of paper that had graphics or information on it that sales reps have handed out to their retailers or customers, clients over the years that they never actually went through with them. It was a leave behind or something or other. Whereas this sell sheet builder gives you an opportunity not only to leave something behind, but it has value information, and you're blowing a huge opportunity if you don't take the time to go and present that, because it can be very compelling. So because I know that, time is of essence here, but we can't really spend too much time on this. I mean, there's no such thing. I'm just going to quickly go through and show you how simple it is to build a sell sheet. Similar to the scorecard, it's a wizard where it's asking you for certain amounts of information. In this particular case, what is the title? And I'm just going to throw this out, just say Bud Light sales. And I apologize if I'm offending anybody. Miller Lite, it can be Bud Light, Miller Lite, Labatt Light, whatever brand you're talking about, whatever brands you are looking at. Are trying to sell. We're going to do it today. The keywords would be, Bud Light. Another keyword could be, holiday display, as an example. But anything here, the account you can pick. We're going to go to the beer zone. That's the step we're in. Does this impact the monthly business objectives? Yes. Are we working on or off premise? We're going to choose off for this example and come back and hit next. All right, here's where if you haven't identified the need of the retailer, then this is where you would start putting in. So let's say that you've uncovered the need and confirmed that they're looking to increase sales and they're looking to increase traffic. You're going to recommend your solution for this, and what you're trying to sell in is you want to get a display and you want them to do a promotion on it, and you would hit next. All right, what's the brand? Most likely all of these brand logos will already be built into your system. We're going to talk about Bud Light. That logo is going to come up. Everything that we're putting into this wizard will show up on the sell sheet itself. We're looking at package. We have opening statements. In this case, you can either select one that's been in there before, or you have the opportunity to hit other and then type in whatever your statement is. But your statement should be a benefit statement. The opening statement on the top of the line should include whatever it is that you're trying to help the retailer or your client achieve. In this case, they were looking for sales and profit, so it should say that in the benefit statement. So here, and in this one, it's sales and traffic. So the statement would be drive more traffic with number one brand in the market. You could say drive more sales and traffic if you like. The features and benefits is it has advertising, and that with advertising, it's going to drive more both sales and profit, right? Or sales and traffic. You
Yep.
add that statement. You can type in your own statement, but I'm just going to use that one as an example for times. But you can put it up to 5 different features and benefits in the situation. It's a leading brand. I'm going to add that one more, which is going to deliver more sales and traffic. We'll add that statement and we'll hit next. Now you can just pick whatever template you want. You can use here. We'll just use the blank template for right now. But if you wanted, you could do a custom template. You could include your company logo at the bottom if you had it in there. It's just a matter of uploading it. You could add supplements to that. So what some of the feedback we've gotten from people is that our sell sheet really just deals with that brand and the sales information around it, but it really doesn't give any of that other information. It might be supportive, like what the profile of the brand is, what type of hops it is, what the different packages it's available in, the UPC as an example. All of that information can be added to the sheet in a second sheet as a supplement. But assuming we have the information we need, we're going to select a package calculator. The number of units that we're going to sell is going to be 40 because there are 10 cases. This is optional, but 10 cases of 6-packs is 40 units. We're going to sell it. Our recommended price is going to be to sell that. Normally, the customer is selling at $8.99. We're going to suggest that they do it at $7.99. Their cost is $6.49. We're looking for increasing profit because the amount that they're going to sell is going to help them increase profit. You could put notes in there later if you wanted to come back to it. You could rate the sale if you wanted to come back to it, either of which would be something you could sort and do a report on if you chose. And then once you put all that information in, up comes the sell sheet.
Presto chango.
Here we go. And now we have the sell sheet. So if we're looking at this, and now I'm going to hit finish because it'll be easier to see once it's finished. And I will go to the last page. Here's the one I just did. We can view the sell sheet. You can email it. You can text it. Come on now. It's just thinking. Okay, so you can see this. So here, drive more sales, drive more traffic with the #1 brand on the market. This is the brand. This says who it was created for. We've listed the Sprite needs of the retailer in here. We talk about how we're going to get there. We include the features and benefits. Then down here, most importantly, we've explained and shown them graphically how much money they can make. $319 gross dollars in sales if they're looking at just total sales as an opportunity, what their gross profit per unit would be, and the total profit dollars they would generate if they execute this. And you can say, based on your previous sales and based on a store down the street that we did a similar promotion with, here's what they were able to attain it. But I want to focus now just a little bit on how this can be not just a value in the market when you're using it, presenting it, but in role play. So for those coaches and leaders out there that are going to implement role plays, then what I'm recommending and suggesting, and that we did at our distributor for years, is to use a sell sheet while you're role playing so that sales rep can actually practice, even if they have to look down at it and read it.
Who cares?
It's going to be better than not, right? So, Mr. Retailer, when I was in here last time, you mentioned to me that you wanted to increase traffic and sales. I'm assuming nothing has changed there. Is that correct? It's a question.
Great reconfirmation.
You reconfirmed it. You listened to them. They say, yeah. Okay, well, listen, if you have a couple minutes, now this is a transition. If you have a couple of minutes, I would like to walk you through an idea on how we can increase your sales and traffic, which I know is what you're looking for. Is that fine? Fine. All right.
Awesome.
What I'm recommending is that we put in a display, a 10-case display of Bud Light 6-packs. Now, Bud Light six packs, they sell every day. What this is going to do is it's going to help you increase your sales, because in addition to whatever else the retailer came in or the customer came in to buy, when they see that six pack, the studies have shown that your sales are increased when you display it by such and such amount, whatever percentage that is. In addition, which is what you're looking for, is increased sales. In addition, it's found that over time with a promotion, when you discount it, you have a display with a promoted price, then your increases in sales go up even more dramatically, which I know that's what you're looking for, is sales and increase. Now, why this is going to happen is Bud Light's the number one brand in the world. It has a lot of advertising around, which is going to drive sales and traffic. It's a leading brand, which is also going to deliver more sales and traffic for you. What do you think? How does that sound? You check in. Okay, you got to check in. And once you've done that, then you wait for the retailer to respond. And if they give you an objection, then we'll go into how to handle objections later. But you won't be able to handle the objection properly if you haven't done everything that we've just described. Not saying you're totally unable to do it, but to do it the way we're recommending, unless you've gone through these steps in terms of confirming the need and hammering home the pounding the nail on the features and benefits, it's going to make it a little bit more difficult for you to do.
Well, and Jim, let me just do a quick check-in with you.
Yes.
So great presentation. Good use of the support that you created. I can vouch that you did not create this an hour ago and have a chance to rehearse this 5 times. You did that very much off the cuff, because you've had so much practice in the past presenting sell sheets, and it's something that you've gotten. If you took 2 years off and didn't do it for 2 years, maybe the first one back, I probably would still be really good. But that you had to cross, almost like, think about, you had to hop a fence. You had to get past the point where it went from being awkward,
right,
which may have been a long time ago, but at one point you were not great at presenting sell sheets, but then you were.
Right.
And
Correct.
every one of our clients has to have that same growth, because what would stop anyone at a sales meeting, even if it's virtual? Put this up on the let this be what everyone sees. All right, Swanson, you next. Present it. All right, McGillicuddy, you're next. I mean, because if someone practices it, you and I always kid around, but I do think if someone had a chance to practice it 5 times in a relatively short period of time, their own confidence level and development on presenting and aligning it, because what you do so natural is make it highly customer focused. That didn't happen overnight, but you got there, and and you've been there, and you're not going to sell. You're not going to go back. You're not going to go back and go, do me a favor, put up a Bud Light display.
No, absolutely not.
Right.
No way. And so you just laid out a scenario. How difficult would it be to put this up on the screen and we go through? They wouldn't even necessarily have to hold it. But if you're doing a mini sales training meeting, or you're having a general sales meeting and you have the whole team in front of you and you've got volunteers. This is something we used to implement a lot.
Yeah.
At sales training, we incorporated every sales meeting we did, we incorporated some measure of training in every single one. We adopted that and said, we're not going to have a sales meeting unless we include some training in it. And this would be a perfect, often it was a role play. Somebody would come up and they would role play, would demo it. We would let the sales team critique it, which was fantastic. Self-assess, salesperson would self-assess, et cetera. We went through the whole 9 yards with that, but it's very, very, very doable. This is not. And then going back to I would argue that, or I would ask the question, what would you be doing? What was more valuable for your sales rep? Telling them how you have to TCOM by a certain time of day, and you're going to put new stripes down in the parking lot next Friday, so make sure that you're parking over here, and whatever other bits of information to get presented out in a sales meeting. What's more valuable, that or providing them with a tool that can go out there and help them sell. You're not putting new stripes down if your sales aren't there.
Right. Yeah. I mean,
Right.
and who would go back? I mean, once we can get our sales teams, and again, this is a leadership program today. If we can get your sales team buying in that once I use a sell sheet and I get really good at presenting it, it's not going to sound as good in those instances where I don't use a sell sheet. That will become the glue. Jim, the last slide I want to show.
I'm going to stop sharing.
Yeah.
Just for the point of this, everybody, we can, you can go back and you can edit that. You can, okay, hang on. Did I stop sharing?
Yeah, I mean, can you see my screen?
I can. Yes.
Okay, there you go. So Jim, I want to end on this slide here, and you and Sean, again, we know that the companies that execute the best have someone who is a coordinator, and it's typically not the owner or the president. It's probably someone who is among the rank and file, but we've given them an opportunity to become like a profits ambassador or a Fox selling system ambassador. But again, I don't know that we need to go through every one of these bullet points, but this is kind of the roadmap for optimal execution, is it not?
It is. And we've even provided more tools, Tom. Another tool on is when we're doing the setup process, we are now taking their clients through a calendar where we're helping and working with them, collaborating and coming up with some goals for them. Like, when are you going to implement the skill assessment? What's the date by which you're going to have that done? What date do you want to select where your managers have had a sit down? When are you going to start implementing scorecards? And we can even give some recommendations around that. And we do. But this is the roadmap for implementing.
Cool. Johnny, any thoughts?
No, I thought today was great. I think it was a quick synopsis, deep dive into kind of our scorecarding tool, kind of the power and value of it and how it aggregates everything, as well as the sell sheet tool. And again, just shocked that today's already mid-November. It's just crazy to think about. But no, I think this is kind of a little bit of a teaser as to how a lot of the 2022 trainings are going to be. At most, they're going to be 90 minutes. Some of them maybe 45 to 60. So they're a little bit quicker, more tactical, teachings and understandings and learnings on how to take advantage of the platform, how to take advantage of a lot of the content that you've been doing for the last 20 plus years, Tom. So thanks for joining, and look forward to tomorrow's key account live training and then Friday's kind of final 2021 sales process training.
Awesome stuff. Thanks, everybody.
Good
Again,
stuff. Thank you.
All about the execution, and we're here to help, literally. So take advantage of that. Look forward to seeing. Go ahead, Jimmy.
You might have thought it was all about the base. It's not. It's all about execution.
Exactly right. Yep.
Thanks,
all right,
guys.
everybody. Thank you. Enjoy the rest of your day. And for those key account folks, we will see you tomorrow.
Rock on.
Take care.